How's it going, everyone? My name is Luxeley, and before I get into a discussion about Shadow Priest talents in Legion, I want to go over the strengths and weaknesses of the class in Warlords of Draenor. Keep in mind, I will be speaking from a PvP standpoint, and I plan to break things down into how Shadow Priest performed in BGs as well as Arena. First and foremost, BGs are BGs. As a Shadow Priest, there's not much you can really reasonably complain about here. Many consider the class to be overpowered, and I honestly can't say I disagree. I have to be fair. And here's why everything clicked, like snapping pieces of a puzzle together one after the other. The combo of Twist of Fate and Cascade gave you a consistent 15% damage buff as well as a healing buff. Absolutely huge. Clarity of Power, along with your speed buff of choice, whatever it was you chose, really made it difficult for you to be focused if you played it in a very proactive way and you were in an open space like a battleground. As far as burst damage, not really a Shadow Priest. Warriors, Warlocks, DKs, Shaman, all are going to do bigger and better burst damage. But here's where Shadow Priests kind of were very, very elusive because their sustained damage wasn't your typical sustained damage. We were better than sustained damage, but not quite as bursty, which made us very elusive, which made us very underrated and not often focused, which was lethal for the other team, especially in BGs and RBGs. Add in your mobility, and Shadow Priests were someone in a class to be reckoned with in BGs and RBGs. As far as Arena is concerned, in threes, Shadow Priest fit very well in a God comp. And if you're a Shadow Priest who uses offensive dispels, mass dispels, your utility, as well as your off heals very, very timely and effectively, you'll find a place on a good threes team. The reality is, though, if they don't know you very well and what you're capable of doing, they would probably take a Warlock, a Druid caster, or a mage over you, just simply because they have a CC on demand, which is a major liability for Shadow Priest, and one of the big reasons why they were just garbage in twos. If you add in the fact that you were very susceptible to snares, you were in a closed confinement, your heals were kind of bad when you needed to leave Shadow form to heal big, and overall defenses, not among the best. And here you are, thinking I'm the king from doing BGs, topping the charts automatically most of the time. It's like you're on holiday and you're in Mexico and you just own the place. You own the place so much that you could walk through the lobby in boots and your underwear, drinking a beer, and nobody says anything. You own the place when it comes to BGs. And somewhat when it comes to threes. Twos, different story. But you don't care. You're convinced that you're the king. You're the dude. You're going to go for a swim in the pool because that's what twos is. You kicked ass in BGs. You kicked ass in RBGs. You were a force to be reckoned with. And you get into twos and you're like, uh-oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And that's why. Because Death Knights and Melee, they have infinite slows and you have no way of countering it. Yes, you can spec for Phantasm, but then you lose your speed boost, which is also essential, and you're going to overall get more mileage and more leverage when you go with the speed boost. So what then must you do? Hypothetically, even if you do spec for Phantasm, they're just going to throw another slow on you. For example, a Death Knight with Chains of Ice can spam it 6 times in a row, and your Phantasm is going to have a cooldown of 20 some odd seconds. Doesn't work well for you. And the same can be said about a lot of melee classes. They just have infinite slows and they can have 100% uptime on you like white on rice, which means that your partner needs to understand this. And your partner needs to either A, have Johnny on a spot kind of CC and make it a 1v1, or simply have a way of protecting you with a hand of protection or some other kind of way to help you out. And that's not always the case when you're pugging twos. So this is where Shadow Priests were. Let's take a look on where we're going and how things look in Legion. The second level 15 talent, Twist of Fate. We're going to focus here on the Shadow. After damaging a target below 35% health, you deal 20% increased damage, 20% increased healing. Very similar, pretty much exactly the same as the current talent. However, this may not be as powerful. It will still be a powerful ability in BGs, but not as powerful, because the happy randomness of Cascade will just hit everybody and anybody and keep that buff going. Cascade will be gone, so this will still be big. So instead of giving it a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it about an 8 or a 7.5. But of course, we have to see how this works live, because you'll be putting out a lot more dots in Legion. The second level 15 talent, Fortress of the Mind, Mind Flay, and Mind Blast deal 10% extra damage and generate 20% more insanity. Mind Spike, which is no longer baseline, that is a talent further down in the talent tree. If you choose it, you're going to lose Mind Flay. It replaces it. So Mind Spike will also get the benefits of the extra damage and extra resource generator. So currently in WoD, demo locks are the ones that generate Demonic Fury and then whip out a big amount of damage. Insanity is going to be the same thing. So this is kind of like the new demo lock in a way, and a way of generating more resources when you do big damage, which essentially is insanity. The third level 15 talent, Shadow Word Void. This is essentially Mind Blast on steroids. As you can see, it's the same exact thing as Mind Blast, but it generates 30 insanity, which I believe is extra insanity, and it has 3 charges with a 30-second recharge. So basically, you're able to use Mind Blast more often. Now, since I'm not in the beta, or the Belfa as I like to call it, the fact is, I don't know if this is something that replaces Mind Blast baseline, or it's something that is used when you are in Void form. I'm not 100% sure, or it could be a combination of both, but we shall see in Legion. But what we do know is this is Mind Blast on steroids. The first level 30 Shadow Priest talent, Mania, is a speed boost, which essentially is going to go up incrementally based on how much insanity you have. The max number of insanity, from what I understand, is 100, so you will move 1% faster for every 5 sanity you have, hence a 20% speed boost. How often that is going to be the case depends on how often you're at max insanity. Also, we don't know if this is going to stack with other damage boosts, such as if another priest pops Power Word Shield on you, will it stack? Any other glyphs that might have some speed boosts, any other potions, etc., etc. So we'll just have to see. The second level 30 talent, Body and Soul, well, I think you saw this before. Power Word Shield increases your target's movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. This is a little bit different in Legion. In WoD, it's a movement increase of 60% for 4 seconds. So your movement's going to be gimped considerably. And if Melee still has the insurmountable amount of gap closers and snares at their disposal, Shadow will do a hell of a lot of damage, but not be quite as mobile. This really concerns me here, but we'll have to see how everything plays out. Body and Soul, level 30, the second talent. The third level 30 talent, Masochism, is actually old school Shadow Priest, spinning the clock back to Wrath of the Lich King. Masochism used to be a talent that would negate the damage that you would do to yourself when you use Shadow Word Death. Very similar, almost pretty much copy and paste here, except they applied it to Shadow Mend. So when you use Shadow Mend on yourself, it deals no damage. Now, baseline Shadow Mend does administer damage to you, but it's kind of like a damage over a time effect. With Masochism, it negates that damage 100%. So this is kind of revisiting the past and having it in application in the future in Legion. The first level 45 talent, Mind Bomb, unleashes a psychic explosion, stunning all enemies within 8 yards of the target for 4 seconds. Very similar to the Warlock AoE stun talent, Mind Bomb at one point was a talent that would replace Psychic Scream, and at another point was a talent that you could have in addition to Psychic Scream. So Blizzard essentially flip-flop on this ability throughout the beta. We'll have to see what happens when it goes live. Either way, whether you have this in addition to Psychic Scream or it replaces Psychic Scream, I prefer to have a stun when I'm against melee. Most melee can either mitigate or premeditate a way to not use their trinket and forego the fear, or they have an ability that can get them out of fear without using their trinket. That's true for every melee, say feral druids or monks. So I prefer the stun against melee. Hopefully we'll get this in addition to Psychic Scream. We'll see how it works out in the end. The second level 45 talent, Psychic Voice, is very similar to one of the PvP set bonuses. Psychic Voice reduces the cooldown of Psychic Scream by 30 seconds, which means you could use it more often, very simply stated. I think this is a very, very good talent and very, very good CC for Shadow Priest to have, simply because you can use it against melee. You could also use it against casters to interrupt them if you have silence on cooldown. So it has a lot of flexibility, has a lot of versatility, and with a shorter cooldown, I'm all for it. Sounds like a great, great talent. The third level 45 talent, Dominant Mind. You can also control your own character while Mind Control is active, and Mind Control now lasts 60 seconds, but it can't be used against players. Absolutely fucking useless in PvP. At one point, you were able to use Dominant Mind and control other players in PvP. Blizzard did a complete reversal on it. They may attach it into the PvP talents that you could use it against players. They may attach it to a glyph. I don't know. The way it stands now, you can't use it against players, which makes it useless in PvP. I was very excited that you could use this in PvP at the beginning of the beta, just simply because Shadow Priests are the only caster, along with Elemental Shaman, that don't have a CC on demand. All the other casters do. This is a huge liability for Shadow Priests, and Dominant Mind would have been a talent that could help address that. But instead, Blizzard does a reversal on it. Bad move by Blizzard. Very, very aggravated about this, but it's a useless talent in PvP. Enough said. The first level 60 talent, Void Lord. It got a little, one of the, I call them blueberries, the warlock pets, as a symbol, but I'm sure they'll change that. Lingering Insanity persists for 10 seconds after you next enter Void form. So it's pretty self-explanatory. This seems kind of underwhelming to me, but that's just my off-the-cuff speculation without actually having tried it. And even if I was in the beta, quite frankly, there are a lot of players in the beta that don't really get their mojo on yet, and they don't really know the particular niches that's going to have these creative opportunities to create opportunity in BGs, etc., etc., etc. So nobody, in other words, nobody knows what they're doing yet. So it's really hard to evaluate it, so don't go by what you see in the beta. Let's see what happens when this goes live, but it seems a bit underwhelming to me. The second level 60 talent is Reaper of Souls, which is a talent I'm clearly going to take just because the name sounds really cool, which of course is a dumbass reason to take a talent. Shadow Word Death is now castable on targets below 35% health and always generates insanity even if it does not or did not or whatever, just basically doesn't kill the target. This is a reincarnation of one of the WoD perks that you got, one of the leveling perks that you received in Warlords of Draenor, where you were able to use Shadow Word Death when the target was below 35% health, and it created a Shadow Orb, and instead of a Shadow Orb, this is going to generate Insanity. So it's just simply a carry forward of one of the Draenor perks from Warlords of Draenor the Fun. The third and final level 60 talent for Shadow Priest is Void Ray. Each time your Mind Flay deals damage, you gain 10% increased Mind Flay damage for 4 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Now, this is suggesting two things. One, Mind Flay damage without this talent is not really going to be that huge. And two, leads a question, and that question is, how is this going to affect Mind Spike, which is something that does a little bit more damage than Mind Flay, and if you choose it as a talent, it's going to replace your Mind Flay. So I'm really curious what kind of an effect this particular talent would have on something like Mind Spike, if it has an effect at all. So we'll just have to see. The first level 75 talent is Sand Lane. Hope I said that right. Actually, I really don't care if I did or I didn't. It increases the damage of the Vampiric Touch by 20% and the healing of Vampiric Embrace by 20%. I used to get those two confused, but not anymore. This suggests a couple of things. One, Vampiric's Touch overall damage isn't going to be that huge. As you guys may or may not know, Devouring Plague is gone, which means that former heal is going to be transferred to Vampiric Touch. And in fact, that's got some goods and its bads. First goods, more heals because you could get Vampiric Touch on more targets and it lasts longer than Devouring Plague. The bads, you have a cast time on Vampiric Touch, and I have a sense it's not going to be as impactful unless you have Vampiric Touch on multiple targets. That's just an assumption on my part. We'll have to see how this works when we get the pre-patch for Legion. The second level 75 talent for Shadow Priest, Auspicious Spirits. This is an old and familiar one. Your shadowy apparitions now deal 100% increased damage, which is the same as it is in WoD, and generate 4 insanity. So instead of generating a shadow orb when it impacts, it's going to generate 4 insanity. This is a pretty decent talent, and it might be something you would consider taking when Legion comes out. In WoD, it wasn't something that I took in PvP, but in Legion, very might be a different case. It's a little bit of an extra way of generating insanity, an extra mechanism to do so, and it might be worth taking. The third and final level 75 talent is just as useless as it was in Warlords of Drain All the Fun. Shadowy Insight. Shadow Word Pain damage has a 10% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Mind Blast. The difference being that it would make Mind Blast instant in WoD. Here, not the case. This is useless. Of course, I could end up eating my words, but for PvP, except maybe in a big battleground, like a 40-man battleground, I honestly think in PvP this is utterly useless. We'll see. Maybe I'll eat my words. Always get some good dip with that. You never know. The first level 90 talent is one of my favorites, even though I never use it, Power Infusion. Infuses you with power for 20 seconds, increasing haste by 25%, and increasing insanity generation by 25%. Could very well be an absolutely huge and preferable talent in Legion. Question is, can it still be dispelled? Granted, not easily dispelled by any other class aside from Priest with Mass Dispel, but still very dispellable, especially at competitive levels. Gotta keep in mind, though, add this with the extra haste you're going to get from Void Form, throw in the Troll Racial if you play Horde and a Troll Horde, guess what? Massive haste. This looks like it's going to be a damn good talent. The second level 90 talent, Mindbender, summons a Mindbender to attack the target for 20 seconds. Basically, this is just a Shadow Fiend on steroids with a significantly shorter cooldown. Generates 5 insanity each time the Mindbender attacks. Now, I don't know if the Shadow Fiend generates insanity or not. That could change, even if it is something that generates insanity. In the beta, like I said, it could easily change. If the Shadow Fiend does not generate insanity, this very well may be worth taking just simply because you're going to have an extra source generating insanity. The third and final level 90 talent for Shadow Priest is Shadow Crash, which incidentally has a damn cool name, and I'm probably going to choose it just because I like the name, which is, of course, a dumbass reason to take a talent. I said that already. Hurl a bolt of slow-moving shadow energy at the destination, dealing what appears to be significant shadow damage to all targets within 8 yards. Generates 15 insanity, 30-second cooldown, instant cast. This really seems to be Divine Star on steroids. Seems to do about twice the amount of damage that Divine Star does, and it's got twice the cooldown, instant cast. May not be effective from distance just simply because it says slow moving. How slow is it? Is it as slow as the old Shadow Apparitions used to be? Or is it as slow as the auspicious spirits are currently, we'll have to see. But when melee is on top of you, this seems like it's a very, very good ability because it's instant cast and will do a significant amount of damage. The second level 90 talent, Mindbender, summons a Mindbender to attack the target for 20 seconds. Basically, this is just a Shadow Fiend on steroids with a significantly shorter cooldown. Generates 5 insanity each time the Mindbender attacks. Now, I don't know if the Shadow Fiend generates insanity or not. That could change, even if it is something that generates insanity in the beta. Like I said, it could easily change. If the Shadow Fiend does not generate insanity, this very well may be worth taking just simply because you're going to have an extra source generating insanity. The third and final level 90 talent for Shadow Priest is Shadow Crash, which incidentally has a damn cool name, and I'm probably going to choose it just because I like the name, which is, of course, a dumbass reason to take a talent. I said that already. Hurl a bolt of slow-moving shadow energy at the destination, dealing what appears to be significant shadow damage to all targets within 8 yards. Generates 15 insanity, 30-second cooldown, instant cast. This really seems to be Divine Star on steroids. Seems to do about twice the amount of damage that Divine Star does, and it's got twice the cooldown, instant cast. May not be effective from distance just simply because it says slow moving. How slow is it? Is it as slow as the old shadow apparitions used to be? Or is it as slow as the auspicious spirits are currently? We'll have to see. But when melee is on top of you, this seems like it's a very, very good ability because it's instant cast and will do a significant amount of damage. The first level 100 talent is Legacy of the Void. Very, very self-explanatory here. Void form may be activated anytime your insanity is level 60 or higher. In other words, it is void form on demand, which is something initially they didn't have in the Legion Belpha, which is, I said it before, hybrid of the Alpha and the Belpha because blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about. Legacy of the Void is a necessity, really, especially when you want to time your burst. You might not be in a position to use your burst when you have full insanity level up. You just really need to have this kind of thing timed. I know you're going to be entering in and out of it quite often, more so than a demo lock would be entering in and out of his metamorphosis, but in this case, this is pretty much a necessity, but we'll have to take a look at the other two talents. The second level 100 talent is Mind Spike, but I want to point out this is not like the current Mind Spike in WoD, which is a baseline ability. This is kind of interesting and a little bit unique, and we're going to get into it right now. Assail the target with shadowy spikes, dealing Shadow Frost damage, and leaving a spike embedded in their mind until canceled or detonated, essentially. You can have up to 10 spikes embedded this way, and Mind Blast will detonate these spikes, dealing additional 200% damage of the original damage. So it's really, really huge to kind of build this up. It's kind of reminiscent of the current Frost Mage's Icicle ability in a way. I like this. I like the creativity here, and I think it could very well be a big damage addition once you can have things set up. Now, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions here. One, can this be dispelled? We don't know. At least I don't know. We'll have to see. And two, is it going to do more damage if you build it up when you're not in void form as opposed to when you're in void form? I'd be really, really curious because here you are. You could build this up when you're not in void form, create that detonation, then enter void form, and then bam, massive damage. Really curious to see how that's going to work out. Kind of exciting, very interesting. The third and final level 100 talent is called Surrender to the Madness. Basically, breaking the hearts of every single psychologist out there. Here's the deal. This looks fun. This looks interesting. But this isn't very practical. All your insanity generating abilities generate 200% more insanity, and you can cast while moving until you exit void form, and then you die horribly. The horror might have some kind of application in 2s or 3s or 5s, maybe if you want to really burst down and take out a healer in 3s or 5s, but other than that, I just don't see the application in PvP. I could be wrong. We'll have to see how this plays out. There might be some other ways that you can make this more interesting and creative with other classes' abilities used right after this or during this. We'll have to see. It's got a 10-minute cooldown as well. I don't know. I mean, that means you could use this once in a battleground. I think this should just be something baseline and come up with something better for a level 100 talent, because there's really not a lot of practical application as I see it. Be sure to be subscribed for more Shadow Priest content coming in Legion. When the pre-patch does come out, I will be online playing it up in WoW, trying to mix and match all the potential glyphs, all the potential talents, all the potential PvP talents, and really coming up with a very detailed and comprehensive guide. And then when Legion goes live, we're going to incorporate the artifact weapon. The only reason I didn't go into the artifact weapon here is I really need to be in the beta in order to speak intelligently about the artifact weapon, so I didn't touch it. I just want to briefly go over some of the talents that are going to be gone, deleted, forgotten in Legion. Some of it is irrelevant. In other words, it's not going to make a difference that it's gone. Some of it is very sad to see it go and wave bye-bye. Some of it is just really a non-event. Some people might think it's cool it's gone. Some people might not. We'll have to see. But first, Desperate Prayer gone. I don't think it's a big deal because we're going to have a lot of healing in Legion, a lot of ways to heal. We're not going to be leaving Shadow Form to heal, so we don't necessarily need Desperate Prayer anymore. Spectral Guise, big thing that it's gone. I am not fucking happy about this. It is a creative ability. It is a very fun ability. It is a very unique ability. And if you use it in the right way at the right time, and I've made videos on that in the past, it can be a game changer. It really can. And I don't think people really understood the potential of this ability. I certainly did. I don't like that it's gone. I am very, very upset. Now, I understand that considering we're going to be doing possibly more damage, we're definitely going to be doing more healing. Having Spectral Guise might make the class a bit OP. I understand that. But I'd still rather have Spectral Guise. Angelic Feathers, they're gone. See you later. Thanks for playing. I like them. They took some getting used to. You really had to practice them. The downside of them is you could basically premeditate your whole movement pattern with Angelic Feathers, and people could just like walk over them and screw things up for you. They were always there on demand. They gave you a nice speed boost, but we're going to have other speed boosts, so not that concerned. Angelic Bulwark, gone. Once again, I'll say it again, I am strongly in the camp that we're going to be doing a lot more healing in Legion, and we're not going to have to leave Shadow Form to do it, which means a lot of good things for us. I think losing Angelic Bulwark is not a big deal. Phantasm, big deal. Snares can still be a huge problem for Shadow Priest in Legion. It all depends on how many gap closers and how many snare abilities will the melee classes still have. That's a problem, and we have no way of removing snares. It kind of sucks. Surge of Darkness, gone. I did use it. Sorry to see it go. I have mixed feelings about it going. I kind of like what they're doing with Mind Spike in Legion, but I also like what they did with Mind Spike and Surge of Darkness and WAD. I guess I can see the pros and cons of both. Not that big of a deal. Insanity, basically our Void form is going to be Insanity, and we're going to be able to do it more often, so it's not really a big thing that Insanity is gone. Bye-bye Insanity. Void Tendrils, gone. Mixed feelings about this. I like it against melee quite a bit. Problem is that you needed to be in melee range to use it. I would have rather had a cast time on it and be able to use it from range, but that's just not the reality. It's gone. I'm a little bit concerned about our CC, especially that Dominate Mind does not appear to be usable against other players. We'll have to see how this works out, but Void Tendrils is gone. The whole tier in tier 90 is gone, and honestly, they were good in MOP. They were terrible in Kata, these three abilities, meaning Cascade, Divine Storm, and Halo. Now, Cascade was a huge damage dealer, and more importantly, with Twist of Fate, Cascade was that much more powerful because the happy randomness of Cascade constantly kept up your Twist of Fate buff. That was excellent. That was great in BGs, especially crowded BGs, 15-man BGs. And those are all gone, but they're mindless abilities. They don't take talent, and they don't take skill. They don't take preparation. They don't necessarily need a brain to fucking use them. I'm glad they're gone. And the last two abilities that are gone, which is Void and Trophy, which I never used, and I really don't care that it's gone, and Clarity of Power is gone, and this makes me mad. It really does. I understand it needs to be gone because casting on the run, Mind Blast every 5 seconds, considering our damage is going to be up and our healing is going to be up, is a bad idea for other players against Shadow Priest. But the fact of the matter is we're still very susceptible to snares, and we're not going to have a 60 or 70% speed boost. We're going to have a 40% speed boost, and we're going to be hard casting a lot more. Great, we could take a lot of damage. I'd rather be a speed demon and be proactive and try to keep myself from being trained in open spaces, particularly BGs, with the speed, with spectral guys, with the instant cast. I like that style of play. Hell of a lot of fun, but it's not going to be the case in Legion. And last but not least, I'm going to summarize and speculate and just kind of put it all together and give you my opinion. My speculative opinion on how Shadow Priests are going to play in PvP in Legion. First and foremost, I do think the damage is going to be great. I do think the healing is going to be great. The mobility is going to be average at best, and our defenses are going to be better. I feel overall the class is going to do better damage, but have less opportunities to put out that damage, especially when you enter Void form. People are going to immediately CC you like they would CC a demo lock when he goes through his metamorphosis, and Shadow Priest will be doing it more often. So that's a very good thing that it's going to be happening more often, because the CC for most classes is on a limited cooldown, so they can't constantly throw it at you. So if you're going in and out of Void form, it does mitigate it. It's not quite as bad as a demo lock in the sense of, hey, look at the demon, let's CC him. Not that bad, but still kind of bad. I don't think the class is going to be as fun, people. I'm being very honest. I love the run and gun style play. It was something I used on my Hunter, and I had a lot of fun on my Hunter, and it's something I implemented on my Shadow Priest when I realized if I throw in a little Spectral Guys and I use my speed boost, I could kind of play the same style because I don't have as many hard casts to do as I used to have in previous X packs. Well, those hard casts are coming back. Our speed is going to be less. Spectral Guys is gone. But we're going to be able to take a hell of a lot more damage, and we're going to heal a hell of a lot more as well, and we're not going to have to leave Shadow Form to heal. That's my summary. I could sound like a complete idiot right now for all I know, but I will be updating this when the pre-patch comes out for Legion, which I suspect to be late July, early August, and I will be updating this when Legion actually does hit the shelves. And so that will be sometime in September that I'll come out with the Ultimate Shadow Priest PvP guide. So be sure to be subscribed. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Leave your thoughts in the comments. This is Luxley saying, whatever it is by you, morning, afternoon, or night, make it epic. Luxley, checking out.